I moved into this neighborhood for peace and privacy. It wasn't fancy, but it was home, an older suburban street with unique houses, overgrown trees, and neighbors who mostly kept to themselves. For 5 years, it was quiet, no drama, no surprises, until Karen showed up with her clipboards, big sunglasses, and oversized tote bag full of documents. It was a Saturday morning. I was outside trimming the hedges when a group of 6 neighbors approached, people I'd seen around but never really spoken to. Karen led the pack, flanked by a guy in cargo shorts and a woman in a floral dress who looked like she was pretending to enjoy it all. Karen smiled like a politician. "Good morning. We're forming a homeowners association. Just need a signature here to make the neighborhood better for everyone." I glanced at the packet she handed me. Glossy cover, bullet points, words like standards, compliance, and uniformity. It reeked of forced smiles and power trips. I asked, "Is this mandatory?" Karen said, "It will be once we get enough people on board." That's when the alarm bells rang. I went inside, pulled out my deed, and double-checked. No mention of any HOA, no CC&Rs. I wasn't legally bound to anything. So I walked back outside and told them, politely but firmly, that I wasn't interested. Karen's face changed instantly. Her smile tightened like a vice. "You sure you want to be that neighbor?" she said with a tilt in her voice that felt like a threat. I shrugged. "I'm not obligated. Appreciate the info, though." The group left without a word, but the Cold War began that afternoon. That night, I found a flyer on my windshield. "Join the HOA. Don't let one neighbor hold us back." The next day, someone reported me to the city for having my trash bins out too long. Then, a mysterious warning notice showed up in my mailbox for property neglect. Even though my lawn was trimmed, my paint was fresh, and I hadn't broken a single rule. Rules that didn't even apply to me. It was like stepping into a slow-burn horror movie. Except this wasn't fiction, it was just Karen, furious that I wouldn't fall in line. I figured it would fizzle out. I was wrong, because the next morning I woke up to find a formal-looking envelope taped to my door. Typed. Anonymous. No signature. Just 5 chilling words in bold. "You're not above the rules." I ignored the letter at first, tossed it into the trash like it didn't bother me. But the truth is, it did. Not because I was scared, but because of how calculated it all felt. Karen wasn't just mad. She was organizing. Within days, I noticed a shift in the neighborhood. People who used to wave suddenly avoided eye contact. My next-door neighbor, Todd, stopped letting his dog sniff near my lawn. One morning, someone left a "Vote Yes for HOA Unity" door hanger on every house, except mine. It was getting personal. A few days later, a second anonymous letter arrived. This one claimed I was disrupting harmony and creating division. I showed it to a buddy who lives a few streets over. He laughed and said, "They trying to bully you into a cult?" I smiled, but deep down I knew this wasn't just bullying. This was a slow siege. Then came the fake complaints. City code enforcement knocked on my door, said they'd received reports of excessive yard clutter and an unlicensed structure in the backyard. That structure was my garden shed, built 2 years ago, fully permitted. I had to waste half a day pulling up the documentation just to clear my name. When I asked the officer where the complaint came from, he said, "Anonymous tip." I knew damn well who it was. The harassment didn't stop at paperwork. My trash started getting missed on pickup day. Packages mysteriously vanished from my porch. I filed reports, installed cameras, even paid extra for signed delivery. Still, things kept happening. I'd come outside to find footprints in my flower beds or sticky notes on my truck windshield reading, "Maybe you should reconsider." At night, I'd see shadows pause in front of my house. Sometimes I'd hear someone walking on the side of the yard and rush outside, only to find nothing but the lingering sound of retreating footsteps. It was clear they were trying to break me, inch by inch, day by day. But I wasn't going to crack. Not over some made-up HOA and their drunk-on-power organizer. Then I heard about the block meeting. Karen was hosting it, not just for current members, but for dissenters. 2, her words, not mine. I showed up, stood in the back, said nothing until she mentioned enforcement plans for non-compliant residents. I raised my hand. "What enforcement? I never signed anything." Karen didn't blink. "You'll see," she said with a smile that chilled my blood. The next morning, a certified letter arrived, a real one. Lawsuit pending. The certified letter was stamped and signed. This wasn't another one of Karen's fake notices. It was from a small-time law firm representing the provisional HOA, claiming I was in violation of newly adopted community bylaws. They were seeking compliance or equitable damages. It was laughable, legally speaking. There were no registered covenants, no governing documents filed with the county, and no legal basis to compel my participation. Still, it shook me. I contacted a real estate attorney the same day. I showed him everything: my deed, the letters, the notices, even the HOA welcome packet Karen had dropped off weeks earlier. He flipped through it all, then looked up and said, "This isn't just unenforceable. It's borderline harassment. You're under no obligation to join or follow any of this. And based on what you're telling me, they're the ones skating on thin ice." That was all I needed to hear. I filed a formal harassment complaint with the city. I scanned every letter, every flyer, and every false citation and compiled them into a digital archive. I posted it on a Reddit thread about HOA abuse and called it "How One Woman Tried to Invent an HOA and Take Over Our Street." Within a few days, the post exploded. Comments poured in from people all over the country, some horrified, some sharing similar stories, and many telling me, "Don't back down." I didn't. I installed cameras front, back, and side yard. Within a week, they caught two of Karen's committee members walking onto my property and slipping a fake notice under my doormat. At 1:42 a.m., one of them looked right at the camera before darting off like a teenager caught ding-dong ditching. That footage went straight onto the Reddit thread and eventually made its way to a local news tip line. A week later, a news van parked on our street. That same morning, another letter came, this time from a dispute resolution board Karen had apparently created. She was trying to make her fake HOA look like a real judicial system, but she slipped up. The letter had a fake seal, and worse, it listed a P.O. box that was publicly searchable and registered in Karen's name. My attorney nearly laughed himself out of his chair. We drafted a cease and desist. We also sent a formal letter to every homeowner in the neighborhood with legal clarification that Karen's so-called HOA had no authority, no legal standing, and no jurisdiction over any property without a signed agreement. The walls were closing in on her. And I was just getting started. The fallout came faster than I expected. Once our cease and desist letters hit mailboxes, the neighborhood lit up. People who had quietly signed Karen's HOA paperwork out of politeness or fear suddenly realized what they'd actually agreed to: nothing legally binding. 3 of them reached out to thank me. One couple, new to the block, said they had felt pressured into signing, but were relieved to know they could back out. Karen's illusion of control was starting to unravel, and her power base was crumbling. Then the news story aired. A 3-minute segment on the local station, "Neighborhood Dispute Over Unofficial HOA Turns Ugly." They used the security footage of her people trespassing on my property. They aired a blurred screenshot of the fake letter with her name attached to the P.O. box. The anchor closed the story by stating, "Experts confirm no legal HOA exists on this block." Karen was caught in her own trap. The very next day, Karen called an emergency community meeting in her driveway. Only 3 people showed up, and 2 left before it ended. She tried to save face, claiming the whole situation had been blown out of proportion, and that she was simply trying to protect property values. But the damage was done. The illusion of authority was shattered, and now all eyes were on her, and not kindly. My lawyer followed through with a civil harassment claim. With the camera footage, the forged documents, and the city complaint, we had more than enough. Her lawyer tried to settle quickly and quietly. I agreed, on the condition that she personally handwrite an apology and circulate it to the same list she used to harass me. She did. Karen's apology arrived folded and shaking with rage. It admitted no guilt, of course, but it was the closest she'd ever come to being humbled. Along with it came a cash settlement that covered every legal bill I'd racked up, and then some. 2 weeks later, her "for sale" sign went up. Neighbors stopped by and quietly congratulated me. Some admitted they were too afraid to say anything earlier. One older man, Paul, brought over a bottle of wine and said, "Took guts to stand up to that mess. Thanks for doing what the rest of us were too tired to do." Karen moved out within the month. Now, I sit on my porch with my dog and a cold beer, watching kids ride bikes down the street without a clipboard in sight. The end. Please like and subscribe for more HOA showdowns like this. Do you think they got what they deserved? Comment below.